This is the new Rollei 35AF from Mint. This is a brand new 35mm point and shoot camera in the year 2024. Who would have thought? Mint is saying that they're risking their whole company to get this project off the ground. Let's see if it's worth 800 bucks. How's it going, everyone? My name's Harrison. I'm a manager here at theFINDlab. We are at Kiev Peak, at Buffalo Peak in Provo, Utah, and we're actually here to test out the new Rollei 35AF, and we're going to be comparing it side by side with the old Rollei 35S. Loading the Rollei 35AF is an experience, I'll say that. There's this little lever at the bottom. Pop that up. The back comes off. The con of this camera is that you have to put this somewhere, so I'm just going to gently put it in my pocket. There's this pressure plate. We loaded Kodak Ultramax 400. We rated it at 400 and just threw the camera in auto to see how the camera would handle different lighting situations. So the roll goes over here. Okay, this is the fun part. Get this guy in. I'd say this is the one con of this camera. It's just loading it can be kind of a hassle. Put that down, advance it, shoot it, advance it, shoot it, and we are now on frame 1. It's kind of hard to see, but we're on frame 1. Same dealio. Counter on the bottom. Okay, we're on frame 1. Let's go shoot. They're both not really that fun to load. I would say the Rollei 35AF, the new guy, was just a tad harder to load than the old one. The back plate, it's just a little tight to get onto the camera compared to the old one. Kind of annoying. If you're familiar with the old Rollei 35AF, you're gonna feel right at home with this one. It has 2 dials. One is for aperture from f2.8 all the way to up to f16. You have the shutter speeds from 1 second all the way to 500th of a second. You're also gonna have an auto mode with exposure comp ±2 on each side. When adjusting the dials, they feel decent. Ooh. I do gotta say the shutter button on this is like super gummy. Like it has me second guessing of like when the kind of like the shutter release point is. It's not responsive. It's the best way of putting it. The shutter button actually stays down until you wind the camera again. So when you wind it, that shutter button pops up. Just comparing the viewfinders, I have to say that the old one is a lot more crisp and clear. I don't know what they're using for their glass elements in the new one, but it just seems not as sharp and crisp. The old one just seems nicer. Let's find a new location. I think we've used this location enough. To set the ISO, you are going to switch this dial all the way to ISO, and then you are going to toggle this button. This camera also does have DX coding. I don't know if it's just our model in particular, but the DX coding was not working. As an example, we put in a roll of Ultramax, which is a 400 ISO film stock, and for some reason it defaulted to like 1600 ISO, so something to consider. Kind of shooting in the sun right now. Hopefully this new lens element and the new technology and like lens coding can help out. Gosh, this place is pretty. So when advancing the camera, the new one definitely feels, it feels cheap almost. Like it feels like you're gonna rip the sprockets. I mean, I haven't had that experience with it yet. I've run probably 2 or 3 rolls through it and hadn't had a problem, but it feels like death. I do gotta say that. Compared to the old one, the Advance feels clean. The mechanics in it feel nice. I mean, this Rollei 35S is designed in Germany, but made and manufactured in Singapore. But you can tell it has that like German engineering behind it. It's like a nice watch. This camera does have a built-in flash. To turn the flash on, it's gonna be this dial on the top. Just go to the little lightning bolt. And when it is fully charged, you're gonna see a little orange dot on the back by the viewfinder. It's not the most powerful flash, but if you're in a sticky situation or going for that classic point and shoot aesthetic, this will get the job done for sure. Ooh, this is pretty. Let's see. There's a photo to be made here. I gotta use my light meter from my old one. Okay. Okay. 500, 5.6. Sure. Oof, yeah, that advancing feels so much better on the old one. This old one, or the new one, excuse me. Let me get the sound on my mic, but it just feels hollow. It feels like you're about to tear the sprockets, and then you have to like advance all the way to the very end. You'll probably get overlapping frames unless you wind it all the way to the very end. Unlike the old one, at least mine, if you were to half cock it, it won't let you take the next frame. Do it halfway twice, and then it for sure advances to the next frame. It's kind of a thing you have to worry about with the new one. Ooh, what is that axe doing over there? Let me see. This is like not a pretty photo, but like, why is this axe here? Whatever. I'll take a photo of it. The thing I forgot to mention is that the old Rollei 35S is actually zone focusing. So there's no autofocusing, there's no rangefinder patch, anything like that. So you kind of just have to guess the distance between you and your subject. I'm about, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 10 feet away from that axe. It has feet marks on the lens, so you kind of just have to kind of guess and hope that you get it in focus. The new Rollei 35AF actually doesn't have like a thread system for the lens. So if you like shooting, black and white and like using like red, yellow filters, things like that, you're actually unable to do that on this Rollei 35AF. Unless they come up with a solution to, I don't know, mount something on there to create a filter thread, you're kind of out of luck with this, unlike the old one, where you can put on any filter that you want. So the old Rollei is a 40 f2.8 sonar lens, super sharp, but the new one is a 35 2.8, so a little bit wider. If I had to choose between the two, I would love a 35 2.8 on my old one. I just think a 35 is a do-it-all lens. You can do portraits, you can do landscapes. There's something about a 40 that is just, it's a little too tight for me. At least, I mean, I shoot a lot of landscapes, so I want something a little bit wider, so. Oh, my knees. Too young to feel this old. Let's get a picture of you, Ty, right there. Cool feature about this camera is actually the LiDAR focusing. It is one of the only 35mm cameras with LiDAR focusing. The cool thing about LiDAR is that it's pretty quick and responsive. It shoots out like some sort of beam or laser and tells you the distance. It should handle low light situations a little bit better than your traditional point and shoot. Like most point and shoots, you have press for finding focus. That LiDAR is going to lock that focus. So if you are shooting sports and someone is running up to you, it's not continuous focus. Ooh, I'm huffing and puffing. Need to go on hikes more often. I hope I can somehow capture how pretty this place is. Do it justice. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think the 35 is gonna shine at this location. Something that does add value to that $800 price tag is a warranty. Mint warranties this camera for 2 years. So if you're having any issues within those first 2 years, just ship it to Hong Kong. They'll fix it up for you and you'll have a working camera. Let's see. 500 f8. What do you think? That's 20 feet away from me. I want to come back here with my large format camera and photograph this tree. It's been on my bucket list for a while. I gotta say, having autofocus is really nice, just not having to think. This Rollei 35AF actually takes a CR2 battery. The door for that battery is on the back. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get open, but I don't see you having to replace the battery that often on this camera. One thing I want to talk about is kind of the metering with this camera. On this little OLED screen, you have this little circle that will tell you if you're over or under. I've been comparing it to my trusty Sekonic, and I'm getting the same readings, so which is promising, you know? The meter on my old camera, this little guy, is currently broken, so I just default to my Sekonic. So the camera still functions correctly, but I have to use one of these. I remember when it was working, even when it was working, it still wasn't the most accurate. So I just kind of defaulted to my Sekonic anyway. Okay, that way. So to go back to our question, is this camera worth $800? That's tough. I think for $800, you could buy some pretty incredible used 35mm cameras. You could buy a Nikon F100. I know it's a chunky boy and it's not as small and cute as this, but it's gonna have better autofocusing, better lenses, better metering, and it's gonna be about half the price of this camera. You could also buy Contax G1, which in my opinion is one of the best value point and shoots or cameras, whatever you want to categorize that camera as. You could also buy the old Rollei. And in my opinion, that old Rollei can do, I'd say 75 to 80% of what this camera can do. Okay, we reached the end. This is like your tension release right here. You have this little guy and you just reel. Gosh, this back plate is such a pain in the butt. With this camera, I think my opinion has really shifted over the past few rolls. When I first opened it and shot my first roll, I thought this camera was pretty rough. As I've shot it and seen the images that it produces, one, the lens is sharp, the autofocusing is par. Is it worth $800? That's up to you. I am stoked that this camera exists. This camera, if you were to buy it, has its downfalls, and I want the community to know that before purchasing it. Build quality is definitely something you have to take into account. For $800, I don't think we necessarily recommend the Rollei 35 AF. But if you're wanting to support a company that's trying to keep film alive, we're definitely not gonna stop you from buying this camera. At the end of the day, it can take a decent photo. Oh, I finally caught one. What do you think, my friend? Come on, you're a fat little guy. Ugh, if anyone knows what this is, what species this is, I wanna take him home. Or her. There you go, be free.